Energy communication. Welcome to Remind Us. My name is Aiden. I've been wanting to cover this subject for quite a while. I've been trying to get a hold of Reverend Sean Walker on Messenger, but either he is taking a nap or he got called to other priorities. I don't know. We will see if he shows up today or not. So, the last video I did was about verbal communication, how every time we use our words, a lot of miscommunication is actually happening. For two people to communicate and to understand each other, there needs to be mutual vocabulary. Like both of you have to have the same understanding about the same words that you're using in your conversation. And that's just not always possible. Like when an adult speaks to a child, it is highly unlikely that child has as much words available to express itself as you do. Apologies. So therefore, it is important that we communicate on a level that is easy to understand. And I tried personally not to use many difficult words like medical terms, for example, is one of them. Like, when a doctor says certain terms, do you actually know what he's saying? You might have some idea, but the point is, when you're communicating, it's important that the person speaking and the person listening are on the same level. So, speaking about being on the same level, let me just go in that direction first. For me, energy communication is a communication that cannot necessarily be expressed in words. Have you ever said you vibe with somebody, or, him and I get really along, we're on the same page, that kind of language? You're basically saying that you have similar energies. Like when somebody is talking to you and you kind of feel where the whole story is going, that has nothing to do with you anticipating the rest of the story. It has much more to do with you just know how that person thinks, behaves, lives, talks, and you just pick up on where it is going. That is a form of an energy that you share between you and the other person. So, as far as energy communication, it's basically everything that is not verbal, it's not even necessarily visible with the eyes. And yet, we're going to go into that as we go on, because most spiritual people, they become open to seeing or hearing or feeling those energies. And many of us, when we start our spiritual path, we have somewhat of an attitude like, yes, I want to be able to do all these things. Like, I want to see aura. I want to, feel what people are thinking. I want to feel the emotions of others. This is a little bit like, I don't know if you watch any of these superhuman TV shows or whatnot, where you basically take a pill and for a while you have superhuman powers. All right. So this is more like that. It's not really that you say, okay, I want all of this. It's more of get to know yourself a little bit. And if you pay close attention, you will see which gift is stronger for you. We all have gifts. I don't doubt that for one bit. The question is, which one do you have and how can you find it? Right? It's not easy. For me personally, it's I feel. What do I feel? I feel the energy of other people. In the previous video, somebody brought up aura. An aura extends pretty far beyond your body that you can see in the mirror. It extends several feet. And when I come close enough to other people, I will start feeling them. I can't necessarily hear their thoughts, but somehow I do feel their thoughts. Let's say somebody is walking around incredibly frustrated, incredibly angry inside, but they're walking around all happy, like nothing is going on. When I come close to a person like that, I will start feeling like that too, angry, frustrated. So, am I reading your thoughts? No. But am I feeling them? Yes. So, I can really tell you what you're angry or frustrated with, but I can feel you are angry and frustrated, even if you are hiding it behind a perfectly happy smile. And I think many of us walk around like that in daily life. We put up a facade and we're hiding how we truly feel. I mean, naturally, when you're in public, you don't want to walk around like a lightning cloud or thunder cloud. The smallest thing might set you off. That's not a pleasant way to walk around, of course. But so the biggest thing that I really wanted to hit in this video is what I call telepathy. And Reverend Sean Walker, I know he calls it empathy. But when I listen to him and when I know for myself what I consider telepathy, I can tell we are clearly talking about the same subject. You see, when we communicate, there is a need for mutual understanding of the words. But if I could use my mind and transfer immediately in complete detail everything that I am thinking in utmost detail directly to you, there would be no room for any misinterpretation. I am really fascinated by telepathy because it just proves to me there is an information field that can carry enormous amounts of information that cannot necessarily be seen or heard with our five senses. um, I've already mentioned to you guys in the past that I had a long distance relation with somebody that lives very far away in a different continent. We met on our cell phones, obviously. We started text messaging, but very little pictures were sent, very little phone calls. But a love started growing between us. And you know that when all you can think about all day long is one particular person and you have no other thoughts whatsoever, you are essentially in a meditation, a 24/7 meditation. And I actually think this is why love is so amazing to us people. It actually puts us in a state that we naturally belong in, a single focal point in our mind where nothing else bothers us or bumps us out of that mind state. You remember when you were in love and somebody said something nasty to you? It didn't bother you at all. Why? Because you were in love. Simple as that. So it was the same for me and the person that I'm talking about. But more things happened there that I don't even know if I can find words to explain it other than telepathy. We were capable of feeling each other from a very long distance. Like we're talking about 5,000 miles here. Feeling each other, like when that person was having a bad rough day, I would feel as if I had a bad rough day too. And yet I knew it came from the other person. It's almost like a thought comes in your head. By default, you're gonna think and feel that is my thought. But in this case, it's more of a thought comes in my head with a barcode or a DNA, maybe, I don't know, that doesn't belong to me. That is how I knew it wasn't me feeling like I had a crappy day. It was the feeling of the other person I was in love with. And to this day, that still works at a much lower level because we we returned back to the normal world, of course. But other things happened there. Like I had out of body experiences with this person. Again, we're very far away. We are not on the phone. This is not a video conversation. But we could inhabit each other's body for short durations and literally be in the body of the other person. Again, we're 5,000 miles apart. What am I talking about? Like, it was so surreal and so amazing at the same time, because I remember vividly that the other person did the same to me. She could smell my room, see my room, feel my room, hear my room, as if she was the one in my room. How do you explain that? What energy is being transferred that allows for this? I'm sure there is a name for it, but until we can actually really define this, I'm just gonna keep calling it energy, or for the sake of this video, energy communication, because this is two-way traffic. Energy is going back and forth, and it is a communication because I understood what is being communicated. She understood what was being communicated. And after occurrences like this, when we picked up the phone later, I would tell her what I had seen, what I felt, what I heard. I would even describe her feelings to her. Like, how weird is that? But just every time, everything came back confirmed. So I cannot deny that this absolutely exists. And yet, to explain this to somebody, it could just never do it justice. If you have experienced this, you know what I'm talking about. If not, and you want to experience this, I'm not sure what to suggest to you. The best thing that I know it really works is empty your mind and try to keep it empty. Don't dwell on the past, don't dwell on the future. Just be present right now. Think nothing and just act. I'll give you a weird example. You're sitting on the couch and suddenly you have to go to the bathroom. Happens to all of us. Do you actually have to think, okay, get off my butt, stand up, start walking towards the bathroom, this door left, that door right, close the door, pull down pants, sit down? Do you have to think all of these things to make it to the bathroom? Or do you just do that without thinking? You could say, well, that's autonomous movement. But ask yourself, doesn't everything that you do in your life at some point become autonomous, meaning you do no longer have to think about the process of what you were trying to do, whether it's get up for laundry, get up for doing your dishes, get up to go to the store. You don't have to think to do this. You just do. So you see, if you can just observe that for 1 minute, you're going to realize that thinking is actually completely unnecessary for 90% of our day. Some thinking is, of course, required. Like, say you're in your kitchen, okay, I want to go to the store. What all do we need? Now you got to, of course, think, okay, do we still have rice? Do we still have cooking oil? Are we out of toilet paper? There is some thinking involved there. But you see, other than things like this, it is very simple living, really. And that's important. If you keep your mind empty, you're going to become much more in tune with how your body feels and how you feel with your body too. Most people that become that start living a little bit more of a spiritual life, they tend to get a little lost. Like they don't know what to do, how to do, when to do. Like some people believe if I sit down 30 minutes every day, like meditate for a bit, I'm spiritual. I really feel like being spiritual is more of a choice of life, maybe like a lifestyle choice. And even in that regard, okay, so if it's a lifestyle choice, what am I subscribing to? What am I supposed to do? It's really up to you. In general, it just means be kind and nice to yourself and other people. Service to others. There are no real rules or laws or I don't want to say there are no guidelines. It's basically just being good and nice to other people, including yourself. And for many of us, that's already difficult enough. Nobody lives a happy life 24/7. We all feel down, depressed, low energy. Maybe we get a cold, sick in the winter, whichever. Still, you can be nice to yourself when you are sick. It means lay down, rest, drink some hot tea, anything. This is a form of being nice to yourself. Your neighbor comes over asking you for help with it can start his lawnmower. I don't know. I'm just saying something. If you have nothing going on, why not go over there? Even if you know nothing about lawnmowers, the fact that you get up to attempt to help your neighbor is a huge step. The video is energy communication. I don't know if any of you have ever listened to or read The Law of One or A Course in Miracles. I did not read Course in Miracles, but I did hear the entire series of The Law of One. But what is that principle called? I don't know. It's a very ask and you shall receive kind of thing. Your neighbor struggles with the mower. He can't start it. He sees you coming out of your front door. He's like, "Hey, you mind helping me out for 1 second, or come have a look at this, see if you know what to do here." He asked. He basically told the universe, "Help would help this lawnmower start. I can use help." He sees you. He calls you. Can you come and look? Can you come help, please? Just the fact that you walk over there with the intent of genuinely helping, do you know how much the odds improved that lawnmower will start? It's a universal law that you get what you ask for. That's what I was saying. The other book, A Course in Miracles, it's probably mostly about that. It is about positive affirmation. I think that's the term I was trying to think of. Positive affirmation. Like, I need help getting my lawnmower start. You're saying help will make it start, essentially. And here you come, go over and helping your neighbor. It might start because now two people have the same intention. He wants help with the mower to start. You are going over to help with the mower starting. So if two people have the same intention, it magnifies the universe's energy in achieving that thing. So I don't think Reverend Sean has made it online yet, but he was mentioning something about stone reading. I wanted to just cover that a little bit. I don't know if I ever told you guys I took a weekend course in shamanism, and there happened to be a stone reading segment in there. Basically, we were partnered up with another person in the room. I was partnered up with a lady, and they told us just go find a random rock outside, preferably not a smooth rock, a rock with some lines on it or cracks or jagged edges, something. And when we came back with the rock, they told us the class was going to be about rock reading. At the time, I had never heard of it, I think. But after the exercise was over, I understood what was going on. Basically, the rock is going to become your, for lack of better terms, your guide. The rock will guide you to the answers you ask it. So I'll give you an example. Say I have a rock in my hand. Of course, I'm not holding a rock right now, but I'll look at the rock and I will see a curved line, a jagged line, and a straight line. in the rock. The exercise is that the person you are partnered up with asks 3 questions, and you are going to read the rock and get the answers from the rock. I'll give you a silly example. Oh, let's see. My apologies for that. So I struggle with good communication with my parents. They always seem to get angry every time we have a get together. How can I make this better? So I have heard the question. Now I have to read the rock. I will say I'm looking at the curved line on the rock, and the curved line is telling you could try and exercise some calm and peace and patience with your parents. They had many struggles, and they still are letting these frustrations out. So they are not necessarily mad at you. Just take your time when you are around your parents. Just give them some space to be themselves, and once they have let the steam off, they will listen to you. The next question comes, and you just go, straight line is telling you that, and then you pose that same question and the answer. So what is actually going on here? Is this energy? Yes and no. Is that rock actually, I was actually looking at the lines on my hand for an example. It's a curved line, a straight line, and a jagged line. But rocks have many kind of lines, and it doesn't have to be the lines. You can just say sharp corner on the top says XYZ. Simple example. But that is the practice of rock reading. Now, why I thought this was a fascinating concept is because the rock wasn't telling me these answers. So where did they actually come from? And here again, we are in the field of energy communication. I also like to think this is actually borderlining intuition. Because what is happening is somebody is posing a question to me, and instead of me sitting here and rationally starting to think about the question, I pose the question to a rock. And what happens is my intuition is much more opened up at this point. So therefore, I say the pre written lines. Curved rock says to your answer, and whatever comes up in my mind now, I just have to let it out. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to rationalize it. I don't have to premeditate on what I'm going to say. Evening, Sean Walker. I just saw your text and see you on the chat right now. It's just you and me for now. I've been on for about 20 minutes. I remember your text earlier. You said you were interested in rock energy. I was just talking about rock, but probably a different part about it that you had in mind. I'm talking about rock reading, but I felt this was important in the whole energy communication dialogue for today, because although this rock isn't necessarily communicating to me, it was facilitating an energy communication. Have you ever heard of this? I don't know if you got that part earlier. I said I took a weekend course in shamanism, and that is where I actually learned this whole process. And that's why I brought it up on this video, because later on I realized this was intuition talking, but the fact that I had something in my hand made it that much more valid or easier to grasp, or maybe I was more open to going with the flow, essentially. So yeah, wherever that information, I'll catch up, but rock reading, no. Okay. Well, can you maybe type something short about, you said something about energy, rock energy. So I was going to cover a little bit about crystals and precious gemstones, because there I can also feel an energy. And since I covered the rock reading, it's intuition basically was giving me answers to the question that two people were seeking. So were the answers correct or not? Well, that's not up to me. More often than not, the person that I was giving the reading to essentially was, I could see that whatever they were getting as answers, it made sense to them. So Are crystals and precious stones, are they rocks? Well, for the sake of it, yes, let's call them rocks for now. Or stones. This is another thing you can try when you are starting to poke around in the spiritual field. See if you can find a shop nearby that has, like incense and gems and little knickknacks to hang around your neck, or that kind of stuff. I know for myself that when I have crystals near my hand, it will start tingling. And I'm saying near my hand because it does not have to physically touch me. I will feel the energy of a crystal. Sometimes it is very intense and it spreads throughout my body. Sometimes it is very focused energy, like it stays in a very precise location. And sometimes it's very dull. Like I can feel the presence of an energy, but it is very dull to me. So if you ever find yourself near a store that has this and you have never tried this, I would say try this. And if you can, try to lay the rock on something that's inert, like a piece of wood or something, or even a stone platter. Lay the rock on that. I'll make an example with my fist. Say this is the rock, and instead of just dropping your hand on it, try to leave it about 1 or 2 centimeters or an inch above the rock. Because if you're new to this, if something is physically touching you, you're going to focus on that physical feeling, like you feel cold and weight on your hand, and you're going to focus on that. So try to not physically touch it. If you feel nothing, don't worry. Maybe try a different rock. For me, it works incredibly well, usually with white crystals. So, Reverend, I put my phone by my screen so I can see you now. Yes, that is how I discovered that I actually feel something when I come near crystals, and that is again where I felt some validation that everything gives off a crystal. Excuse me, gives off an energy. It's a wavelength. If you feel it very clearly, that's a crystal you could take home with you. It might be beneficial to you. Most of these stores will have books and tell you what each crystal does. In the last video, I actually covered it. Your body is very good at communicating to you what it is that it needs to function optimally. The big question is, are you able to listen? Most of us don't really have a clue. We run to the doctor as soon as something seems out of whack or doesn't feel right. But when you start to tune in to yourself, you learn to listen to your own body a little bit. And I'm not saying avoid the doctor at all costs. God, no. These people need to make a living too, and they're there to help you. Please do see a doctor if you need it. I'm simply saying, also consider trying to feel your own body because it tells you what it needs. It's just a matter, can you tune into that? So right. Hey, Emma, I see you in the chat. I've only been here for, well, almost half an hour. Apparently, it's all good. Everybody is a little lost today. It seems it's okay. The video will stay online, available on YouTube after the live chat is over, of course. So far, I've covered a little bit about telepathy, which is what Sean Walker calls empathy, and rock reading. It wasn't so much about the rock reading. It had more to do with the information that came not from the rock, but from the energy field. And Sean Walker here is now bringing up earth energy. I have said in other videos before that our human body seems to be a replica of planet Earth. I mean, our planet is probably round, our body is not. I'm talking more about the elements, like the minerals and all these things, and the water that we have in our body. It seems more and more that it is a replica of our planet, the Earth, and that makes perfect sense to me. How else could you live on a planet if your body is not compatible with it, right? If your body were made out of, say, stone, it wouldn't go very well. Yes, stone is an earthly element too, but is stone fluid? Stone has a very difficult time moving. So, yes. And Reverend Sean here is bringing up the earth energy is. I remember in the last video I brought up that all of us have an aura. We have an energy field that extends beyond our physical body. Most of us cannot see it. I expressed earlier, I can feel it. I don't see them. So, it is important that we tune in to the frequency of our planet, the energy of our planet. Why? We can give and take energy from the earth. It is a form of keeping ourselves charged or discharged. Many of us, we walk around with a lot of stress, and it creates almost like a static charge on us. Have you ever grabbed a car door handle or the doorknob in your front door, or even when you sat down on the couch and you got a strong electric zap? I'm sure you felt that, and you can hear it too. That's an example you can probably relate to, but grounding is essentially you standing with your bare feet on earth soil, ideally without shoes or anything. I mean, you really have to make skin contact with the earth. And what happens here? You are equalizing your energy with the earth. If you have too much of it, the earth will absorb it. If you don't have enough of it, the earth will recharge you. So we can do that with other people if they don't have access to the earth. Like, and what I'm saying here, standing on the earth, the best place to do this is the ocean, on the beach. You know, that section where the sand is wet because the waves keep hitting it. If you can walk there barefoot, that would be ideal. And I'll tell you why. This energy that we are having in our body, it is electrical too. I'm not saying it is only electrical, but that is a simple example. One way to let electricity travel easily happens to be salt water. Guess what the ocean is made of? Mostly salt water. So if you are walking barefoot on the wet sand of the ocean, a lot of energy transferring can occur here. So that is one example where you can equalize your energy with the earth on your own just by standing outside barefoot on the soil. Another way that you can change your energy, and I say change because some people need more, some need less, some want to heal something that doesn't feel right with them. Emma says she used salt water. Interesting, I should mention that. Yes, I personally have a lot of Himalayan pink salt in my house, and once a year, yeah, I don't do it often. Once a year, I will put a whole cup of it in my bathtub upstairs with nice warm water and just soak in salt water because I'm a 3-hour drive from the ocean, so naturally I can't just randomly go there whenever I want. Strangely, I'm not a big ocean person either. I like mountains, I like forest. The ocean is nice. It's a fun time and nice to get a tan too, of course. But every time I do go to the ocean, I do walk around barefoot on the water because I know it is really beneficial. And since I don't go there often, I might as well, take the opportunity and do that. Oh, excuse me. My feet are falling asleep. So, I don't know if you guys know, but all the technology that has a wireless function, like say a radio, television, your cell phone, walkie-talkies, all of these things have a crystal inside of them. Why do they have a crystal inside of them? It is the one thing in these electronic devices that helps us tune to other devices. For example, your cell phone wants to tune to the nearest cell phone tower. Your walkie-talkie, it wants to tune to the walkie-talkie it is supposed to respond to. Same for your radio. Your radio has a whole range of frequencies it can listen to, but if that crystal isn't there, it's not going to find anything because the crystal is what leads it to the right frequency. Why do I bring that up? Because this is about the word tuning. Nowadays, we don't have to tune a radio anymore by spinning the dial. These things are all obsolete now. It's all basically push buttons or, easy self-finding stations where you just click a button and it'll find the next station for you. But that is called tuning. When you spin a knob and you are finding a particular frequency that you want to listen to. Now, why do I bring that up? Because humans are very similar in that regard. We have our own frequency. And remember earlier that I said we are a replica of this planet? I have zero doubt some part of our body is crystal. Ugh. So, do we have a physical crystal in our body? I don't think so. Maybe it's in liquid form. Maybe it's part of the pineal gland. I really don't know. And science has yet to tell me, yes, there is crystal in our body. But the fact that we have the ability to tune our body to other things like the crystal, we must have something in our body that responds to this. That's why I'm pretty convinced we have a form of crystal in our body. So, what does that mean? Let's say there is 8 billion people on this planet. I'm sure it's close to that. Maybe it's a little more or less. Who knows? The point is, you can communicate with another person through this energy field. And the one thing that you are going to have to do to achieve this is tuning. You need to be able to tune in to the energy of that other person. So I'm watching Sean Walker typing here. He's saying wavelength and tuning into that person, that energy. And that is exactly what I used to do to that person that I was so madly in love with. It's like I said, we were tuned to each other very rapidly and continuously, which gives you the option or the opportunity, I should say, to help a person from far away, because somehow our body can physically and energetically respond to the energy of another person, even if they are on the other side of the planet. I dare say they don't even have to be on the planet. Again, this energy communication is huge for me because it seems like it doesn't follow the laws of physics whatsoever. We came up with a number for the speed of sound, and it seems that even this communication happens beyond the speed of sound. Speed of light. So that's why I'm very fascinated with it. There's just something out there that science isn't talking about. I've had enough experiences in my life to know there is something there. And Emma, if you've personally experienced something that you cannot necessarily explain with physical things, except that you somehow just knew, I'd love to hear that, because that's really what this is. You just know. You just feel, and it's as if you experienced it yourself. So people can communicate with other people through this same field all the time. Awesome. People can communicate like this as long as you can tune into that person. And this is something that actually will take quite a bit of practice. And yet, even if you never had practice, something will have happened in your life without any doubt that you had no warning for, and you just suddenly knew something. Reverend Sean, I'm seeing your last text there. I'm trying to think of how to put that in words. I'm looking at a possible reason why people think they might have talked to God. Um, Earlier, I gave an example. I don't know if you heard that part. When your neighbor is struggling with his lawnmower and he thinks to himself, I need help to get this started, he is putting essentially an unspoken wish out there. He's just thinking, I need help. I can use help. He sees you coming out the door. He's like, hey, neighbor, I could use your help if you got a minute. If I have the same thought, like I want to go help this person, now two people have one intention. They both want to see this mower start. That's the example I came up with earlier. Somewhere there is an energy that makes these things happen. And if humans tune in to a goal like that, the likeliness of this mower just starting, because many of us have tuned into the idea of want to help, want to start, want to mow, this thing will start, and nobody can explain why it started now and not earlier when the guy was trying on his own. Who knows? So how is it that some people feel like they have talked to God is a very similar concept. I heard a quote a while ago and I forgot what it is, but it had to do with praying essentially. There's nothing wrong with praying, but I find it important to learn how to communicate with this field correctly. What you feel is your need and desire. You have to be very conscious about it. Don't just, I want a Ferrari, I want a bigger house. They say this over and over. You have to feel like you already have it. And I know that sounds silly because how can I feel like I already have a Ferrari? And I don't dream of a Ferrari, guys. I'm just making an example everybody can follow easily. This energy responds more to you and your inner state. Much easier. If you want physical things, yes, you can wish for this too. Anyway, I'm veering off topic a little bit. Um, Excuse me. It's the whole talking to God concept thing is it's really that. It's you have to feel as if you already have what you are asking for. So if your prayers are lots of complaining, nobody can do anything with that information. And I'm not saying complaining is wrong. It's good to vent, especially if you're not venting to somebody else. It's actually good to vent on your own too sometimes. Have you ever noticed that when you do that, it actually seems as if you are venting to someone, even though you're alone? For those of you that are just listening, Reverend Sean Walker just wrote this. They say the only reason an airplane takes off and flies is down to everybody praying that they don't crash. That's funny, man. I like that. Everyone's praying that they don't crash. But who knows? Maybe that is how an airplane flies. Who's to say, right? That's that's good humor that I really appreciate. It's literal, it's figuratively, and everybody gets it immediately. So yeah, the energy field. So animals, some even think they can talk to the trees. Well, I personally believe that everything, whether it has a heartbeat or not, has a frequency, has a wavelength, and therefore can communicate with everything around itself, including humans with nature, animals with nature, humans and animals. We can all communicate. And again, personally, for me, it happens through feeling. Like I will feel an emotion and I know it is not my emotion. I usually also know where the emotion is coming from. So animals, for example, have you ever noticed that they are very in tune with the terrain that they are living in? We humans, we learn everything by copying other people and whatnot. Animals can't just easily do that. I mean, they don't speak a language like we do. They make seemingly random sounds, but they're very good at surviving wherever they are. They seem to be very in tune with where they are. So they too are using this same energy field. I'll give you guys another example that still fascinates me to this day. And I have yet to do this, but I'm really wanting to do this at some point in my life. It's ayahuasca, but I'll tell you a story about it. These are the native Amazonians, I believe, or in Peru. I was going to say the native Indians, but they have a peyote. Anyway, ayahuasca is a plant that induces a certain state. I don't want to get too far in that topic now, but what's fascinating here is when scientists found out what ayahuasca is and what it does to us humans, they tried to go to the native people that still know how to make it and they asked them, they said, I cannot do this in a laboratory. How on earth did you figure out which plant would do this and how to prepare it? You want to try ayahuasca too? Awesome. Have you heard this story? This shaman flat out said, the plant told me. Now, when I heard that, I did not bust out laughing. I absolutely believed the guy, and to this day, I still do. I really believe the plant told him to. You see, animals are very in tune with nature. How would they know what plant to eat, what plant not to eat? If I threw you in the jungle, how long do you think you're going to last? Do you know what to eat? If it were me, I'd be lucky to remember, okay, I got to catch rainwater because it's drinkable. But when I'm out in nature, I don't recognize anything that I can think of. Can I eat this? Can I not? So for this guy to say ayahuasca, the plant, it told him how to prepare it, it made total sense to me. I just knew I don't have that ability necessarily. Well, I do have that ability. I just haven't trained into that skill. So again, this is a form of energy communication. There is a field of energy information that allows access if only you give yourself the time to listen, to learn, to observe. Yes, I've heard that. And I also believe that the earth has many benefits and a lot of its plants have been banned for consumer reasons. Oh my God, Emma, spot on. It makes me so sad because I personally am a huge, I hate the word believer because I should actually say I'm a huge knower. Like I know these things. I'm a huge knower in holistic living. I find it so sad that the plants that have the biggest beneficial workings on us seem to be, funny enough, the first plants that are being outlawed or considered illegal. How ridiculous is this? And I'm trying very hard not to make my channel spiritual slash conspiracy theories because I love conspiracy theories. But if you ask me, this is the pharmaceutical industry hard at work to make sure their empire of big money doesn't collapse. The minute you know how to heal your cancer, your headache, your bruise, your sore hip, your kinked spine, if you know how to help yourself by just pulling out a couple of plants out of your yard, they become obsolete. And yes, I called it a big money machine because that's really how I see it. If whatever you're doing has to cost so much money that nobody can afford it, are you actually a welfare system or are you a money making system? A business. That's my problem with health. It's being treated as a business. It has to make money, which I personally feel is very wrong. So again, I've said it before, don't avoid going to your doctor. If you need medical help, do seek a doctor immediately. Again, this is my channel. I'm speaking from my own learnings, my own observations, and the way I've been living my life. I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. I have never in my life gotten a vaccine for anything. No, I haven't done medical vibrations. Are you speaking about the gallstone, the sound system, sounds, the use of ultrasound, Reverend? But where was I? What was I talking about just a second ago? But yeah, I personally am a huge holistic liver. I really believe that we eat ourselves sick, we can eat ourselves healthy. But here is the big problem: there is a huge split between these two. I know what I'm eating, and I also know not all of it is good. But say I have a persistent pain in my shoulder or the top of my lung, essentially. I don't naturally know what I should be consuming for that. I'll give you a silly example. One good thing to eat that acts as an anti-inflammatory is garlic. It's a spice not many people like because it gives you a funny smelling breath. Well, what's more important, the way you smell or that you are actually happy in your own body, like healthy? So, onion and garlic are two spices that I use regularly on at least a weekly basis. Same thing for vitamin C. You can get it out of an orange, an apple, a lemon. Vitamin C is good for boosting your immune system. You don't have to overconsume it. That's from the addiction video. You don't have to overdo anything. Luckily, however, for us, vitamin C is one of these things that if we overconsume, we just urinate it out. It's almost impossible to overdose on vitamin C. And I'm sure our body does that with many other things. If you're not sure, well, I'm speaking for myself. If I'm not sure, I will eat whole fruits and vegetables, knowing that if it's not what I needed, I will probably urinate it out and I'm fine. Garlic is the oldest antibiotic, I believe. I wouldn't be surprised. So, um, another thing that we can speak about is actually touched on this on the previous video is medical vibration, sound essentially, and light actually is being used lately too. Um, Gallstone removal, it's an incredibly painful thing from what I hear. I never had to experience that, and knock on wood, I don't want to, but nowadays we have the technology to obliterate these stones using sound. It's ultrasound, and in the last video I told you guys, when you flick a crystal glass, it'll make a ringing sound. If you can sing that same tone loud enough into that glass without touching it whatsoever, it will shatter. So what is going on here? This is a frequency, again, wavelength frequency, but everything in this universe has this. It's a frequency, and if you can play that same frequency back just a little louder, you're going to obliterate whatever had that frequency. If I put a crystal glass and a regular glass next to each other, and I'm only singing the tone for the crystal glass, the other glass will not shatter. Why? Because it responds to a different tone. Since we are talking about medical things a little bit, I'll tell you why I am very disgusted with chemotherapy. I am disgusted with it, okay? If you need chemo, please don't let me stop you. Do this if you feel right doing it. But chemo is essentially a nuclear bomb going off inside your body. And what is the whole idea? We're going to kill everything. Let's just hope the cancer dies before you. You see, chemo is one of these things that we do. It's not target driven. Like, it doesn't just seek out chemo and it doesn't seek out cancer and go for it. No, it attacks everything that is biological. So that's just wrong to me. Again, we have no clue how a human being operates, how it functions at its best. And this is what we do. We just dump it full of chemo and hope the cancer dies before the rest of you is beyond repair. That is why I will never do chemo personally. I already know that. Warbling. Honey is used as a antiseptic in the field. I believe you. As a matter of fact, honey is very healthy for our blood. Surprisingly, the consistency of honey is very similar to our blood indeed. And I'm not a big eater of honey, but I know it is also very helpful. Since Reverend, you're in the UK, I know honey is one thing that you can easily mix in your tea as a alternative to sugar. It's a good sweetener. It's a healthy sweetener. So, yeah, the warbling. Reverend Sean is speaking about throat singing. I brought it up in the last video also. I don't know what the tone or the frequency or the wavelength of cancer or tumors is, but I have zero doubt it will respond to the right sound. And by respond, I mean disintegrate, as in being broken up into things that our body can eliminate. So throat singing is fascinating to me, and I do it a little bit myself too, not necessarily to try and get rid of any cancers. I find it very energizing. I don't have another word for it. Energizing. When I throat sing just for myself in an empty room, and yes, I do have a shaman drum too. It's a very low and deep tone drum that I will just beat at about 3 to 4 beats per second, like boom, 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 boom. And I will just throat sing over that sound. Whoops, excuse me. For me, it gives a very relaxing feeling. It is also something, this is how it started out for me. It is one more thing to help you not think. When you're just singing out a tone, it's very difficult to think on top of that. It's just not naturally, we don't do that. And I use it as a form of meditation. I don't know if it could be used in healing, but why not? Again, vibration is anything that moves. Even if it appears like a rock does not appear to be moving, right? And I can assure you it has a vibration. It has a wavelength to it. So same thing goes for anything that goes wrong in our body. If we could sing the same tune to our problem, we could essentially alleviate it just like that. There is another thing called light therapy. It's the same idea. As a matter of fact, when we're speaking about wavelengths and energy, sound and light, we with our body perceive those as two different things. Essentially, they're the same thing. They are wavelengths. One is just audible, the other is more visible. One example is an X-ray. I don't know if you ever gone to the dentist or the chiropractor. Maybe you've broken a leg. You can keep your eyes open during an X-ray. Have you ever seen a flash? No. And yet, you can see a crystal clear picture of your bone, your skeleton, essentially on the screen. Why? This is a wavelength that passes through everything that is meat on your body, but does not pass through calcium so easy. In other words, bone. That is why we can see an X-ray. It is a frequency that is kind of selective on what it wants to show and what it doesn't. And that is why we use it in the medical field. X-rays were actually one of the things that they used to sell people shoes. Believe it or not, they would take an X-ray of your foot and then try and sell you shoes. 60 minutes noted. I thought you wanted to make this a 2-hour special. I don't know if that's still the case, but I have no other plans today, Reverend. If you want to bring more up into this, I'm more than happy to indulge. Something else that I personally know about, and I've never witnessed this with my own eyes, but again, I find this incredibly fascinating, and I don't remember what it's called, but I'm gonna make up a term because I can't recall. I'm gonna term it fake surgery. I don't know if you ever heard of this or seen it, but in places where they don't have modern medicine, like I don't know, the Amazon forest maybe, apparently there they occasionally, and it's usually a shaman that does this, obviously. It isn't just make believe stuff. I mean, it's somewhere in between, but this is about energy communication, so I want to give this example too. What they do is they perform fake surgery on you, and yet you become better after this quote unquote surgery. I remember seeing a documentary about this, and I was blown away by it. And the guy was laying on the table. He had his shirt pulled up, so his belly was visible. And they don't tell you this, of course, because they're trying to trick your body into believing something is being repaired in it, on it. It's like the sound destroying the cancer. Here, it's another human trying to help you. So what do? They put their hand on top of your wound or whatever. Well, it's not a wound; it's something internal that's wrong with you, and they will make it look like as if they are working inside of you. And they even use berries, something that simulates blood. Doesn't hurt, obviously, because they're not going in your body at all. You are not being cut open with a scalpel. Nothing. This is all. I don't want to say make believe, but yes, they want you to believe. They want you to be convinced that whatever your ailment was has been taken out by means of this surgery. It's essentially the placebo effect that is at work here. And science knows that this is actually true. We are capable of thinking ourselves sick and thinking ourselves healthy too. People that are always in a negative mind state, like a pessimist essentially, when they get sick, they will deteriorate very quickly. Why? Because they believe they're sick, they believe it's over, they believe everything's gonna go bad. Whereas an optimistic person feels the exact opposite. They feel things are gonna get better, things are great, nothing is really wrong right now. I don't have to worry about this whatsoever. When a doctor tells you, oh, you have cancer, I wish and I hope you get a doctor that is a happy person, someone that speaks upbeat and will say, you have nothing to worry about. Don't worry, you're not gonna, fall over dead tomorrow. Because if a doctor says you have cancer, you probably got about 2 weeks. This person that hears that is gonna believe it. Their body starts some sort of internal clock and it starts to deteriorate according to what it was just told. So did the doctor actually tell you you have 2 weeks, or are you doing this to yourself? Really? I'm blown away that this works. It's called the placebo effect, but the way we think about everything, especially on an emotional field, including our own body and our own wellness, has an enormous impact on how well you will do. So, dangers of when I was 20, I experimented with just thinking my leg didn't work. 3 days it took to lose the use of my leg. Lol, yep. I was slightly nuts back then. See, I totally understand what you mean. I do the same thing occasionally when I'm laying down in my bed at night. I don't know if I told you guys, I'm not a meditator. I don't sit, cross-legged in the what is that posture called? The lotus position. I lay flat on my back with my palms down and my legs relaxed, nothing touching each other. Like my legs a little bit spread, my arms a little bit away from my body. But I do the same thing. I will do a mental scan of my body. I will literally lay there with my eyes closed and try to feel my toes. Not by wiggling them. No, I will just energetically try and feel my toes. Anything wrong there? Nope. Okay, a little higher. The bottom of my foot. See, I can feel the energy buzzing in my foot right now. I'll move up a little more, my ankle, up a little more, my leg, more my knee, upper thigh, and so on, and then the other leg, then my whole torso. If I can focus on a few organs, especially if you have felt some pain throughout the last couple of weeks in a specific area, I scan my body without touching it, without looking, without listening. It's just, again, energy. And if you do this a few times, you will feel a different sensation when something is not right in a particular area. Again, this is a form of your body communicating with you. Of course, I am putting effort in this. I will lay down, empty my mind, and scan my whole body. So, um, that is something you could give a try. If it's difficult for you to just meditate and empty your mind, here is a task that you can give yourself. Just feel as many detailed parts about your body as you can. If it's difficult for you to just feel them tingling or something, just draw a mental picture in your head of your body and just go, okay, the foot, the ankle, the leg, the knee, the upper leg, down, other leg, knee, lower leg, ankle, go to your torso. Almost draw it a little bit in your imagination. You use the tools that you can. Like, for most of us, imagining isn't always simple, but it helps. If you practice this long enough, anything will help you get there. So another subject that is being requested here is energy vampires. If you go out in public often and you come home feeling as if you have been drained of your energy, that is what is known as energy vampires. There are people out there that literally absorb your energy. Again, this is not physically touching you or nothing, it's just being near people. This is something that happens through the aura. If auras interact with each other, and it doesn't even have to be that close, it could be, again, across the world. If somebody is very tuned in with you and you are willing to help them out, that's not necessarily an energy vampire, because you are voluntarily helping a person. That's what, if you ask me, that's what we're all here for, helping others unconditionally. You might find yourself drained of your own energy. And that example aside, when you're trying to help somebody else, there are people that unintentionally drain your energy. They don't even know they're doing it. Some of them do know. It's usually very manipulative people that I've noticed for myself. I don't know if you agree with that, Sean or Emma. It's people that are very unhappy with themselves. They need someone to lean on all the time to tell them what to do, how to do stuff like that. These people tend to be energy vampires, and there are several ways to go about it. I mean, if you're heavy enough into spiritual stuff, you can make yourself a shield so your energy stays with you and the energy of others doesn't penetrate yours as effectively. So yeah, energy, people that suck energy from a person, exactly. It's I've experienced that myself more than once. It's very unpleasant, and at first I thought there was just nothing to do about this. It's like the weather, whatever weather it is, take it or leave it. I thought this energy vampire thing was the same. If someone's draining your energy, what are you gonna do? Run away? Like, this energy is not just physical, like I said, it is in this information field. Right. So Sean Walker is bringing it up here. Witchcraft is heavy into protective energy. So that is what I have been doing too. I will imagine a protective barrier around me while still allowing my good energy to spread over to other people. So yeah. Gotta stretch my back here quick, guys. Oh my god. Ooh. I keep noticing I'm doing my videos somewhat in a hunched over position to be close enough to the camera, because this is a laptop. I can't bring it any closer to me without tipping it over or it being partially on my lap. I'm trying to keep the camera steady. That's why I'm doing it this way. But my back is feeling it, that's for sure. So, what else can we touch on energy, Reverend Sean or Emma? Is there other areas where you feel energy? Ooh, I have another one actually. You might have heard of this guy. I believe he lived and died in the very early 1900s. Edgar Cayce. I'm a huge fan of this guy. Like, I've read most of his, well, he didn't write books, but most of his quote unquote work was documented. You know what? This is early 1900s. Let me give you an example from right around 1999, so the millennium. Have you seen The Matrix? Do you remember how Neo could see the quote unquote Matrix or the real world in its original code? This thing that I keep referring to as this energy that persists everywhere is essentially like that. I'm not saying it is that golden code that's twinkling down all day every day, but he could see everything in its pure energy form. If you could do that, nothing would ever be a mystery to you again. All knowledge is available to you on the spot. And Edgar Cayce, he is also known as the sleeping prophet. He could lay down, and within seconds, he had access to all the information available out in the universe, and he could answer any question that you had. And the questions that he answered openly the most was usually other people that came over with pain, disease, health issues. He could tell them not only what to do about it, he could even tell them what had happened to cause the pain in the first place. You know, you go skiing, you fall off a mountain, you break your leg. Okay, everybody knows how you broke your leg, but let's say you have a sharp pain on the inside of your rib cage and nothing has happened to you in the last 6 months, a year, I don't know. How could this guy possibly know what happened to you? And here's a funny fact: he could even tell you if it was from this life or another life. My point is energy communication. This guy could tap into the universal energy and see everything in its raw, energetic form. And he would tell you exactly what, and Emma, this is for you, what plant you should consume that your body will benefit from and restore up to optimal health on its own. Emma, good one. Dreaming. What about dreaming? It's similar to what I was just talking about, Edgar Cayce, but he could do it somewhere between conscious and unconscious. He could just get information in great detail that was incredibly helpful. And sadly, this guy has passed on. I believe it was in the early 1900s, like maybe 1905, 1910. But what he did fascinated me. It just proved to me once again there is an energy that just knows everything and we are allowed to tap into it. It is just about, can we? Are we willing to learn how to? Yes, Emma knows what I'm talking about. It is indeed the Akashic record. I find that it's a term, whether you want to take that term as it is or want to call it something else. It is information, infinite information about anything that has happened in the universe and even will happen, might happen. It's an infinite library of all information you could ever possibly need. Like if you think the internet is like that, believe me, the Akashic records are way more advanced. And I am constantly feeling like that is where technology is slowly trying to go towards. And at the same time, I'm thinking that's one thing we should just stay away from, period. Why? Because we just have a tendency to abuse everything that we can get our hands on. Simple as that. So yeah, dreaming. I'm doing a video on dreams soon. I thought so. We don't need too much info. Okay. Dreams actually fascinate me a heck of a lot, and I don't know if this is a good comparison, but I kind of want to say what the first thought that comes up for me is dreaming is a little bit like the Bible. Why am I making that comparison? Because you can interpret it literal, figuratively, metaphorically, somewhere in between. The same thing goes for dreaming. You can take your dreams literally, metaphorically, any way you want. But in the end, a dream is always one thing, always. It is catered personally to you. And just like the Akashic Records, it is simple. Do you know how to interpret it? Most of us would dabble in tarot, astrology, and even dreaming. We will buy books and I saw a unicorn in my dream in the woods by a stream of water. So let's go through the book. What does a stream of water mean? What's a unicorn mean? What does every detail from your dream? If you're gonna go through books like that, I don't know if that's a good idea because these books were written by another mind, not your mind. So that aside, yes, this dream was for you and for you alone. Yes, you can share it with other people if you're looking for help to interpret it, maybe. I love it when people tell me their dream because I always seem to come up with things that they hadn't even thought about. It's always fun to watch people when I'm telling them my interpretation of their dream. But yes, it is tailor made just to you, and it is for you to observe and study it. And yet, I kind of also want to say, do not put too much emphasis in your dream. Remember, you are here to live a real life. I've heard it before. Dreams that just your brain processing the last couple of days. I don't necessarily believe that because I myself have had dreams that were more to the liking of premonition. 15 years ago, I used to go to the gym, and every time that same guy, one guy would be there. He was really buff. He was ex-military and whatnot. He was trying to keep himself in shape in his retired age. He looked great. And then that gym closed, and me and him had no personal life. I didn't have his phone number or didn't know where he lived or nothing. We just kind of back each went our own way. And about a year ago, for some unknown reason, I had a dream that I met him at a local gas station where they serve food and whatnot. And the dream just ended like that. There was no dialogue, no nothing. I just remembered I felt excited that I saw him again. And I had a short conversation with the guy in the dream, like, oh my God, dude, you're the guy from the gym. Like, dude, I've been looking for you. Like, I've been wanting to hit the gym again with you. Like, it's been forever. Yeah, it had been forever, 10 years. But I'm not kidding you. When I woke up, went to work, came home, and then I went to the gas station in the evening. Guess who was there? After 10 years not seeing this guy anywhere, he was at the gas station right after I had that dream. Like, so you see, why am I actually saying that? It means what benefit would it have been to me for me to analyze that dream to the greatest detail? Not much, probably, right? So personally, I try to take dreams a little bit at face value, but if it's clearly metaphorical, yes, I might sit down and try to study it a little bit. But again, you're here to live a physical life. Try not to be too stuck in the quote unquote dream world. But again, I validate dreams. Yes, they are amazing. They're fantastic. And yet make sure you don't get lost in your dream world. Whew. So, yep. I myself have unbelievable vivid dreams, almost indistinguishable from life. But if I look closely, there is always something out of place. Yes. I think there was a movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, Inception. I think it's on Netflix or whatever. It is almost entirely about the dream world, which I thought was a fascinating concept. The movie I thought was a fascinating concept. I don't want to talk about it too much, but it is all based on dreams and what can be achieved there. See, since we're talking about this energy field, let me ask you guys another question. When you are thinking, do you think that only happens inside right here, your brain area? Do you think your thinking is limited to just the physical matter, the pile of meat under your skull that you call the brain? I'll tell you what I believe. I think our thinking does not only happen in our physical body, meaning our thoughts are also in our energy field, like our aura, if you will. That's a term people are more familiar with. When you think, it extends beyond your physical body. I say it often. I personally do not think often. And what that leaves me with is I suddenly think stuff that I know wasn't my thinking. What does that mean? It means that it's highly likely that I picked up the thoughts of another person. Often I sit down with a few friends and I'm just listening to the conversations that are going on, but I'm not necessarily talking. I'm just listening and observing. And suddenly I will blurt something out loud. And one of my friends will say, I was just thinking that. I was afraid to say it out loud. That happens often to me. And once I realized that I wasn't thinking, and then I said something that wasn't really mine, and then thank God somebody confirms, hey, I was just thinking that. Awesome, dude. And thanks for saying it out loud. Is that proof that thinking extends beyond our body? I don't know. But for me, it has to be. There's just no other way of achieving something like this. Like thinking has to be happening in our whole energy field, not just the limits of our physical body. I've said it before. If you are thinking of a car and I were to cut your brain up, and am I going to find a car? Well, no. It's a thought is a whole bunch of electrical impulses, but electrical impulses are energy, and energy doesn't have to be limited to copper wires or salt water or anything. Our physical body, essentially, it can go beyond that. It can convert into a frequency or a wavelength, and other people can pick that up. That is why I personally am very fascinated by telepathy. I have no doubt I could think something so intensely that somebody else can either co-think it or receive my thought. Because I think the bridge between co-thinking or just receiving my thoughts, maybe that's a better way to put it. I can think something so intensely that somebody else receives that thought. Again, there has to be an information field that allows for this communication. So I wrote a theory about that 20 years ago, and yet it's absolutely possible in my option. Yeah, see, that's a great example here. Do unicorns exist? Kinda. We know what one looks like. We know its name. So does it exist? that's a bit of a philosophical questions, but this goes back to vocabulary. Remember the last video? That was verbal communication. When somebody says the word unicorn, nobody has seen a unicorn, and yet all of us know we're talking about a horse with one single horn on its head, essentially. Funny, why do we all know that? Well, again, it's learned communication. This is probably from, Disney or fantasy stories, books, maybe even. So, do they exist? Well, yes, because we can think of it. I go even further than that. I actually believe that it is humanly not possible to think of something that cannot be real. Does that make sense? I don't think we are capable of thinking of things that are impossible. In other words, if we can think it, it can be done. That's really what I believe. Because I know our mind is limited to the information that it has available. So, therefore, anything that comes up in our mind is a product of the things we already know. Um, Nikola Tesla is a huge idol to me because he achieved some incredible stuff too. But he himself said it too. You see, he supposedly was the father of electricity and generating electricity, but it didn't exist really, or we didn't really harness it, I should say, until he came around. How did he come up with the idea? Because it didn't exist at that point. In a way, it did. Lightning is a form of electricity, but that doesn't allow us to harness it. See, Tesla came up, and I'm not talking about the car manufacturer now. I'm talking about Nikola Tesla, another guy that lived in the early 1900s. He came up with so many ideas. Again, I have to ask, did he get it from the Akashic record? All right, one more thing on the unicorns, because Sean said something that I had actually never heard before. He says the unicorn thing, actually, it came from a fish. Yep, a unicorn myth came from a fish bone. I advise viewers to look it up. I might do that right after this video because I had never heard that one before. I'm not lying. I never heard that before. So I don't want to get into Nikola Tesla, either if you've heard of him or not, but the same thing still applies. Where did he get the information? Where did he get the ideas? But one thing that actually strikes me funny with all these, I don't want to say all these very intelligent people, let's call them very intuitive people. Almost all of them seem to be vegetarian. They don't consume meat. They just eat a plant-based diet, and not only that, they actually eat the bare minimum needed to live. Um, why is that important? I listen to several other channels myself, and Sadhguru is a big one. He's from India. He has said that if you consume other animals, you are consuming part of their energy, and it is just not that compatible with us. Our body has to expend a lot of energy to integrate the animal energy that you are trying to consume and build your body out of. A quote is popping in my head. I think it was Tesla or Edison that came up with this. We eat the ox, thinking we will become as strong as the ox, completely overlooking that all the ox ever ate was simply grass. See, I like that quote because that seems to have been our kind of thinking. That's a strong animal. Let me eat that and I'll be as strong as the animal. How is it that we never even looked at what that animal eats? So maybe we should go to the food source of that animal. I'm being a bit metaphorical here, of course. I'm going back to the eating holistic. Um, I don't want to sound like a hypocrite because I still eat meat too, but not as much. I am trying very hard, and it sounds like I'm failing at it. No, I'm actually a very big vegetable eater. Fruit, not so much, but vegetables, yes. Ooh, I got another one for you guys. Again, the whole energy field. Remember earlier I was saying, how did the shaman ever learn how to prepare ayahuasca and what it was? The plant told him. Have you ever noticed that the shape of vegetables often has the the workings of the human body part that it responds to? Wow, how am I going to explain that? Okay. The first thing that's all of you are probably going to instantly recognize: kidney beans. Yes, these are little beans shaped like a kidney. If you had to guess, what organ in your body do you think appreciates this particular bean? See, it's the kidney, obviously, but isn't it strange that although we cannot communicate necessarily, like, hey, banana, what are you good for? What body part are you gonna help me rebuild if I consume you? We don't really have that kind of communication with our food. It would be amazing if we could, and I would love to have that too. One day I will, I'm sure. Anyway, take a carrot. If you lay a carrot flat on your counter and you just chop it in half anywhere you want, now look at the round inside of the carrot. What do you see? You can see the iris of a human eye. So yes, carrots have beta carotene in it. It is very healthy for your eyes. Tomatoes are very good for your heart. You might have to use your imagination a little bit there, but I think, yeah, tomato looks quite a bit like a heart. It's got that flexible feeling to it. It can clearly contract and expand a little bit without exploding. But you see, most of our food is somehow directly linked to our body. It almost tells us what to eat if there is a specific issue in an area of your body. So when I say I want to eat more holistic, that is one area that I can easily see that I don't need a translator essentially, or a dictionary or a herbology book. Just look at the food. Is it shaped like an organ? It might be good for you for that particular ailment. If you could talk to your food, you would see intelligence, and we all know we don't tend to eat intelligence animals. So would it apply to fruit and vegetables? That's that's how I feel. Like, um, I'll tell you what, if thoughts occur outside of our human body, then I have to ask myself, yes, I ask myself this question. If that is true, then what is the actual purpose of the brain in our head? Well, if you look at the brain, where does it go? I mean, what is it connected to? I should put it that way, really. It is connected to your spinal cord. Where does that go? Well, from there it goes to everywhere: your arms, your legs, your sex organ, your intestine, everywhere. I believe our brain is essentially just the interpreter of our three-dimensional world, and also the caretaker, the autonomous computer, if you will, that runs our body. But the thing that we call the soul is not part of the brain. It communicates with our brain so we can live here in a three-dimensional world, or the fourth dimension, depending on how far you're looking here. But so yeah, it's Carrot, please don't eat me. You bollocks, get in the pot. You faint. But that was Sean Walker diving. What was I? What was I talking about? Um, oh my god, it's trains of thoughts, man. It was. I knew energy communication was going to give me a lot of things to talk about, but yeah, we're at an hour and 35 minutes, guys. Is there something? Emma covered your dream a little bit. Also, I noticed you have one video on your channel. I actually watched it. Don't be discouraged to just hit record and start making videos. That's what I'm doing too. I don't know anything else yet. Sure, in time I will learn how to edit a little bit, make an intro, an outro, all of these things. Don't be too scared to put your voice out there. Essentially, that's really what you're trying to do. You're trying to get your thoughts out onto the internet, right? So don't worry about the little knickknacks that can always come later. It was funny, Reverend. I did laugh at that too. It was hilarious. So, hour and 36. I'm feeling good with this video. Anything else, Reverend, you think we should cover in this energy communication? We can always come back on this some other time because ultimately everything is energy. Oh, I was talking about the brain connection to our body. If our thoughts happen inside the brain. Um, have you ever had a remote controlled car? You know, like just two sticks, one to go backwards and forwards, one left and right. I almost feel like our brain is the receiver of that remote controlled signal. So the thoughts happen around me essentially. And if a thought says, okay, well, we need to go there, that information will actually go in my brain, and my brain will start using this body in the way that is necessary to achieve that one thing that we want to achieve. Mind reading. Yeah. I don't, guys, Reverend John Walker was suggesting mind reading, and I feel I've already covered that in the video, not necessarily as a subject on its own, but I explained that if I am thinking something very intensely, somebody else that is tuned enough and capable of these things could read my mind. Um, Again, conspiracy theories. It's a little bit like your cell phone is always listening to you, whether you're have it on or not. Have you ever noticed that when you're together with a group of friends, you're talking about things you might want to do in the near futures? I want to go kayaking, but I don't have a kayak. Next time you open your phone, guess what's going to pop up as soon as you open Amazon or the internet? You're going to get a whole bunch of coupons or, directions here. You can find kayaks in those locations. That doesn't have much to do with mind reading, but what I'm saying is it feels a little bit like if that were to become a thing where people only can openly read your mind whenever, what happens to privacy? But at the same time, this is again this would be one of these technologies. If they make a device to do this, and I would have very little doubt it already exists, but if they made a device that's capable of reading mind, what do you think is going to happen with that? By default, we turn everything into a weapon first. So I'm sorry, I don't want to complain about conspiracy and negative thinking, but I think some things are better left for later dimensions, and we're gonna make a video on the third, the fourth, and the fifth dimension or density, because I personally feel that the fourth dimension is going to lean. People say the fourth dimension is time. Fine, if it is, great, but I really think it is love. Spiritual people, they have a feeling of unconditional and universal love, meaning you never actually feel like harming another person. If that were the world that we lived in, it didn't matter what you think because you never meant harm to anybody. If somebody hurt your thoughts, it would also not harm you because nobody has ill intent. That is just not the case in this world right now. Most of us, we are trying to live a better life, but until all of us are like that, privacy is going to remain a very big priority. Group visions, everybody seeing the same thing that is not there. Mass hallucination. Like, um, sorry, my cat is at the window. I have never experienced that, and I try hard to just stick to things that I'm personally somewhat familiar with. Even if it just happened once, it's enough for me to be aware of it, and I want to just throw it out there, see if other people have experienced things. But I keep saying this energy communication, there clearly seems to be a field out there that carries all information. We're obviously only allowed access to 0.0000, a whole bunch of zeros, 1% to function as a human on Earth. But like I said, when we walk around, our energy field interacts with other energies. Who's not to say that when an earthly energy or even the energy of a very big old tree, if enough people come in that vicinity of this thing and they suddenly all have the same vision, that could easily be explained that way. Or also group belief or group meditation. If all of you are focusing on a single uh, source, essentially, you might indeed experience a, I don't want to call it group hallucination, but yeah, something all of you are experiencing all together through this energy field. At school, my whole class saw a man walk right past the window. We were on the fifth floor, no scaffolding. It's, I mean, who's to say, right? It's, I don't think we talked about this in the video. I think I did a video on time, but I often wonder if sometimes there is other dimensions that are overlapping with ours, where say that school in another dimension would not, there would be ground level there at the fourth level of your window essentially, and you are seeing an apparition of a person walking around in another dimension, something like that. I don't know, again, I haven't experienced those things, but I have seen what we would label ghosts. It was in the previous house that I lived. It was a very old house. I think it was over 100 years old, and I could clearly at night see an old lady in a rocking chair rocking back and forth. That's all I ever saw. And it was usually only for a couple milliseconds, maybe a second. But because my brain interprets things differently in that dimension, it seemed like I saw it for a whole minute straight. It's a similar concept. I'm seeing something that my physical body will tell me it's not there. And yet some other part of me knows what I'm seeing isn't there, but I can clearly see it is too. So maybe a video on what is and isn't. I don't know. It's uh ghost stuff. It's a little bit too, I don't want to say too touchy, but it's too I don't know what to make of it. How about that? I believe it, obviously, because I've had my own experiences, but I don't really know what to make of it. I really believe it's the Akashic record that's not keeping correct track of time, maybe. Something like that. Like I said, I saw an old lady wiggling back and forth in a chair. Usually these apparitions are there because the person that you are seeing in the apparition spent a lot of time in that specific location doing what she's doing. So that area of the house has that energy engraved in it. So yes, the physical person is gone, maybe the chair too, but the energy itself hasn't moved yet. Something like that. I think really that's what a lot of quote unquote ghost or apparitions actually are. It is energy that used to spend a lot of time there, and although the physical person has passed on, the energy hasn't left yet. Many stories like that myself. How much time you got? mostly when I was young. Surprised I was weird kid, but I saw other kids say stuff beyond belief. No, dude, I really believe. I mean, Reverend, sorry, I really believe you. Like I said, I've had stories myself, and I don't often say them out loud because I just don't know what to do with that. I mean, sure, I can share it, but am I trying to entertain you now? Am I trying to have an investigation with you? Usually, when I share stories, it's more for let's try and figure this out. Not let's see if I'm right or wrong, or if I'm stupid, insane, or whatever. No, let's just try and come to a reasonable discussion on what this could have been. And like I said, for me, it seems to be energy that hasn't left yet. So, Harry Potter. But we are coming up on an hour and 45 minutes. Excuse me, we've already hit that mark. So if it's okay with you, Reverend, I think I'm gonna call this the video. Unless there's one final topic, Emma or anybody else watching, one final thing you would like to quickly discuss. Let me see if anyone sent something on my phone. Nope, all good. Mm-hmm. So, all good. Awesome, guys. I'm going to leave the video at this. I do think I might touch again on energy things in the future because to me, that is big. To me, everything is energy, whether we can see it, hear it, or not. Everything has to be energy. There's just no other way to interpret this world. Simple as that. And our brain is the interactor of this energy field. That's how I see it. So it was my pleasure chatting to you all. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Of course, it's only Saturday where I'm at. For some of you, it might be almost midnight, I think. Yep. So please subscribe, please like, please comment on the videos. I do read all of your comments, and it would be a huge help on creating videos in the future to have topics that I know you guys are interested in. So I will see you guys all in the next video. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.